Welcome to the Sheltazar Podcast. My name is Jeffrey Eisen. I am a spiritual life coach, channeler of Sheltazar, and an energy intuitive. This podcast is about using spiritual wisdom, insights, principles, and practices to integrate and embody into your life in a practical way. My guests share their story of their spiritual journey, as well as how their spiritual beliefs, insights, and practices have helped them live a better life. Their life stories help others understand and accept life's challenging opportunities for learning, expansion, and growth. The Sheltazar Podcast is all about integrating spiritual wisdom into your life in a practical way. And my guest today on the Jeffrey Eisen podcast is Wenty Hill from Bellingham, Washington. Welcome, Wenty.
Great to be here with you, all of you.
Excellent. Thank you. Wenty and I met on LinkedIn. I love meeting people from all over the world on social media. And she was kind enough to gift me a birthday reading. And that's how we connected. And I had this amazing psychic reading from Wenty that made a lot of sense to me. And I said, gee, why don't you come on the podcast and we can get you to share some of your spiritual wisdom with our listeners. So thank you for that reading, Wenty. It has changed my life and I appreciate that. And so why don't you start off by telling the listeners a little bit about you and how you got to where you are today and some of your spiritual beliefs.
Great. I'd love to. Thank you. Hi, I'm Wenty, your fairy godmother. That's my job. Pretty much it's get them what they want, get people whatever with integrity. And so just your wildest dreams come true. And I'm about supporting you through the team I work with and your angels and guides to help have it all. I'm totally a belief in magical results, and I mean results in the real world. Basically, I've been doing this for about 40 years. TV and radio, Boston Globe, New York Times. I'm listed as top one of 4 healer channels on the planet by the Sedona Journal of the Emergence. I lived in Sedona 20 years and about 10,000 hours of education. I love learning because I believe if I learn the right things, which always seem to come right before the client, then I can serve my clients and give it to you. So that's the job, is help you to have it all. Pretty much my bottom line is indeed that I'm a spiritual fairy godmother. I want you to have results. There's nothing else happening in my life. It's about fun. It's about creating outrageousness, going beyond your wildest dreams. And I believe that fairy tale dreams do come true, and it definitely can and usually does happen to you if you decide and open up and to receive. So that's kind of a little bit about me.
Great. At what time in your life, Wenty, did you tap into your gift and realize that you were here to be a fairy godmother?
Well, I was talking with my sister about this exact question a couple of days ago. I love the way everything is set up. And she said, when did you realize that you were a fairy godmother? And I said, I realized as a child, I was seeing things that other people weren't seeing. And I knew things that didn't make any sense for me to know. At that point, I just assumed everybody knew all this stuff. And I frankly now believe that everybody does know, but people aren't necessarily always listening to their inner knowing. So it was really from early childhood that this started to come out. But it wasn't until I became being a kind of a semi-professional matchmaker that I saw why that was happening. Was I knew exactly who to put next to what kind of conversations to lead them into to learn about each other. So it's all realms, matchmaking, obviously, money, relationships, success in business. I was a fast tracker in corporate America. So I know how to get people results in almost every arena, and health. I've been doing that 40 years. So pretty much I knew at an early age it was about being healthy, not necessarily about being wealthy, though wealthy is great too, but it's more about having it all in fulfillment and success in your life and feeling successful.
Excellent. Tell me what it was growing up, being connected to a very strong connection to the invisible world, to your intuition. Were your parents accepting of it? I've had other guests that have had their gift from a young age, and not always is that journey easy because, as you said, you think it makes sense to you and everybody sees and hears and feels what you hear and feel and see, but that isn't the case. What was it like growing up with, did your parents explain it to you? Were they understanding? Share a bit of that with us.
Well, it's a little bit of the best of times and the worst of times kind of thing. So I knew what my parents were saying without them saying it. I seem to know that. I don't read people. I think that's against the law spiritually, but I kind of know what's going on. And I knew my mother didn't like what I was saying. I just kind of, the stuff would come out of my mouth and she didn't like it. But interestingly, my mother had seen fairies as a young child. So she actually rejected it and shut down that world. And my father was reading tea leaves, and his mother also read tea leaves, and they were always, it always came true. So both of them really, and my father was very staunch Republican, conservative. Yes, that was not supported, but I knew I had to do it anyway, no matter, I can't tell you this was an easy path at that time, but I'm not a victim. I realized that them being the way they were got me where I am now. And so I can't say, oh, poor me or any of that. I believe that was the stuff I had to push through to get to where I am. And it's not, this is the case I find with a lot of clients, is they come from a place that's the opposite of where they're going. So it's challenging to get from that opposite from one side to the other. And that was my experience. Was I knew that at 13, I said to my mother, she says, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I want to be happy. And she goes, no, you can't do that. She wanted to help program me to be a doctor or be something, a leader in the world. I knew being happy was the most important thing. And here today, it's still the most important thing in the world. So it's a little of both, the best of times and the worst of times, being a spiritual being at an early age.
So what advice would you give to parents, young parents? I truly believe that a lot of the young children that have been born into the world as of late have great gifts, have great talents, and not always do the parents understand that. So what advice would you give to the parents to help cultivate those gifts in the young ones?
Well, the first thing I would say, it's going to be kind of funny, is it's important not to use the word no or don't, the conjunctions. It's because that means you're actually telling them to do what you don't want them to do. But on the other hand, to say that to an advanced child, that a lot of these, as you said, are exactly very advanced beings, is kind of a joke, because they're going to do whatever they do. And you're just going to get frustrated along the way trying to make them do your way when they have their elders in a little body. And so these elders are really, really advanced beings, and they need to be, they're going to teach you. And so your job, if you want, is to become the student and learn from the elders. It's kind of reversed. They may be small, but they're wise, and they're connected, and they're staying connected in most cases nowadays. They're not getting as disconnected as a lot of us used to get, because it's okay to have a connection to higher power, God, whatever you call that. So, become a student and let your children be the teacher.
Excellent. Tell the listeners a bit about how your spiritual connection, your intuitive connection to the invisible world has helped you in a practical way in your life.
Well, I think that's funny, because I think a lot of people would agree with this on this show for sure, is that when you're given that inspired hunch, follow it immediately. Do not wait. Just run into it and do it. When you hear the inspired hunch, now the key is staying connected to your solar plexus, your gut, where your answers all are, or listening to your higher self, a gentle, quiet little inner voice, not the ego, which is the voice that gets you to stay in the 3D, in the 1% reality, which is only 1% reality, by the way, instead of being connected to all that is in the 99% reality. So follow that quiet, gentle little voice. And as soon as you hear that inspired hunch, act on it immediately. Just run into it and do it. And you will notice the miracles and magic just start clicking right away. It's so powerful when you do that.
Wenty, a lot of people have asked me, and I asked guests on the show as well, you talked about that inspired, quiet voice, and you talked about the ego. How do you know the difference? Often people ask me that question. I like to pass that question on. How do you know the difference when the ego is giving you that hunch, or your intuition and the inspired connection to the invisible world is?
Boy, thank you for asking. That is a terrific question. I'm not surprised you get asked a lot that question. Let's see. 99% of the time you're running from ego. Let's just assume that. That's what's happening if you're living in 1% reality. And most people are pretty much programmed with TV and family and society and the way it is to be listening to the ego, because that's supposed to create results. Things like work hard, get ahead, those kind of things that you would hear, you have to work harder, those kind of things. What happens is your inner voice is a quiet, gentle, on the key, is loving, 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 soft, supportive voice. That's the key to listening. It's this loving, supportive voice, this make a feel good kind of voice. And the ego that most people are having running them 99% of the time is you got to do this, or there's a negative, there's a lack, there's a low frequency to it. You can feel in your solar plexus there's a heaviness to it, or it feels something's not right. You feel like something's wrong in your solar plexus, in your gut, where people get successful business leaders get their gut check is in the solar plexus. And so you want to see, is it that loud voice? Is it that naggy voice? Is it there's something wrong voice? Or is it that loving, gentle, soft little voice that feels positive and light? Light is the word in your solar plexus. That is, you feel the rightness of it. And that's your inner guidance.
Excellent answer. Couldn't have done better myself. And that's why I'm a big fan of people connecting to that awareness, to become the observer, because you are going to have the two aspects of you. And if you want to have more confidence in your intuition, you have to become aware of the difference in those voices. And Wenty, you described it really well. So my advice to the listeners is heighten that awareness, tap into when you believe it is the intuition. And I agree 100% with you. Go for it. And I'm always a big believer in trying it out in small things like getting parking spots in busy parking lots and trying something new on a menu at a restaurant. Just test out that beautiful inner voice of yours when the stakes aren't quite as high. And then I think you'll start to get some confidence and build from there. So that's excellent, excellent advice. What is your read these days? We are in the midst of a difficult and challenging time that they are naming a pandemic and calling the invisible enemy COVID-19. From an intuitive, energetic perspective, what sense are you getting from the higher realms as to what we're going through right now?
The information I'm hearing is totally countercultural, but you wouldn't expect anything different from a fairy godmother. This is the most miraculous time ever on the planet. We are in the middle of a period called spiritual awakening, and this is a time of total transformation potential for every human here. And especially if you're meditating a lot, if you're listening inside, if you're truly wanting to be intuitive and trust your intuition and have your life be transformed beyond your wildest dreams, it's time to go in, especially now we're in Mercury retrograde. It's time to go inside and listen, because you will be given answers to every facet of your life and you will be totally transformed during this period. It is such a gift that we have been given this time of solitude, confinement, where we must go inside. We must spend time alone, and we don't have as much barrage of all the programming so that we can hear our inner guidance and answers. I do believe I have seen so much transformation during this time. You were part of that. Meeting you, for me, was part of that. And know that this is a miraculous time. I strongly recommend everybody take advantage of it, because it doesn't get any better when you're inside, not outside looking at the distractions in the 3D world, but when you're going inside and you can see the magic of miracles. I'm seeing them all day long on LinkedIn. I'm seeing them all day long on social media. I'm hearing all day long from people. It feels like every day has become kind of magical, which is really, really great. So this is the period of spiritual awakening. It's a really important time to start coming from the word certainty. Now, this means you know that you know the answers. It may not be what you're hearing on the TV, but you know on some level that your life has to shift or is shifting, or you're becoming new, or you're getting more connected to source, God, higher power, whatever you call that. So it's not about sitting back and being complacent and being a victim. You're no big victim. You never were. You're totally in charge and you just didn't know it. This is, you now get to enjoy the ride by listening to your inner guidance.
Excellent. Well, that is certainly expected advice from a fairy godmother. I wouldn't expect anything other than that optimism. And I agree with it. I agree 100%. I just like to add one thing, and that is for the people who are in the midst of the fear and the bickering and the divisiveness, you kind of have to let that go. You have to let go that outer worldly challenges and hardship and victimhood in order to go within. If you hang on to that, if you hang on to the fear and the worry and the doubt and the wondering, it will be difficult to truly connect. respect to what Wenty is talking about. I truly believe that the riches beyond your imagining are there when you're willing to go within. But in order to do so, please consider letting go some of what you're hearing, what you're reading. I am not a great proponent of all of the stuff that's showing up on social media and in the news. And I certainly don't want to, get on the bandwagon of calling it fake news. It's just an opinion. Shaltazar says that all truth on planet Earth is relative. It's all based on perspective. If you do what Wenty is suggesting, you will have the ability to look at what's happening around you with different lenses. You will be able to find your own truth. And that is so very important. So stop listening to everyone around you. Go within and find the keys to the kingdom. So yeah, I'm with you on that one, Wenty.
Thank you. And I do also not want to diminish or not respect the people who are the first responders and the people who have had deaths in their family. I personally have. I don't want to not respect and honor the people who have gone through the challenge of dis-ease. And so know that that's in there too, the respect and honoring of people who've been hurt and hospitalized, etc. I'm not being uncompassionate to them. It's that this is now a new reality that we walked into, and most people don't know we're here.
That's an excellent point. That certainly is an excellent point. And from a spiritual perspective, those that are leaving the planet, those that are choosing to leave their human form, and I say choosing more from a spiritual sense, are doing so for us. They are creating a situation, they're creating an energy for us to reinvent humanity. And so, yes, by all means, I encourage people to have empathy and compassion and understanding. And in order to do so, again, I'm going to put a plug in for letting go of the fear. If you spend too much time in fear, your energy is lower and slower, and you will not have the vibration to connect to that intuition. And so I think it's really, really important to, as Wenty said, go within. This is a tremendous opportunity. I know that when you connect, I know when you gave me your reading, you let go of the outer worldly situation and went within, and your reading was phenomenally accurate. So I think there's an opportunity for the listeners, meditation, quieting the mind, stop reading the news. There's lots of opportunity for us to take advantage, as Wenty says, this phenomenal spiritual awakening that we are in the midst of.
Thank you.
Yeah, excellent. Wenty, why don't you, tell people how they can get in touch with you? We're just about drawing close to the end of our time. It was a great conversation. I really enjoyed it, and hopefully the listeners got something out of it as well. How can people get in touch with you? What are some of the offerings that you have that can help people at this interesting time in human history?
Super. I'd love to tell people on how we can connect. I love that part, connecting with new people. And anyway, you can tell I get excited with that. Okay, you can go to my website, secretsofafairygodmother.com, secretsofafairygodmother.com, and see my offerings. There's lots of information there. There's a whole bunch of great videos. I love giving people as much as I can give them. So enjoy all the good free stuff there. There's a lot of it. And some really cool stuff showing up very soon on top of this. So anybody who's joined the email, and you can do that through secretsofafairygodmother@gmail.com. And so what I want to say to everybody on the call is I'm more than willing. I'd actually love to give you the 10-minute free session that I gave to Jeffrey. And so I'd be more than willing and really, really want to do that. So it's been more fun when I was guided to do that about a few months ago. As soon as COVID started, the guys, God and the angels, told me to offer these 10 minutes for free. And here it is. And I'd like you to have it. And you send a message to secretsofafairygodmother@gmail.com, and I'll give you 10 minutes free. Anywhere in the world, I'd love to serve you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And all of that information will be in the podcast description. Before we leave, Wenty, I'm just going to ask you to tap into the universal intelligence, tap into the invisible world. Take a moment and just bring us a message that is in our highest good right now.
You are magnificent beyond your wildest dreams. You know you're good on so many levels. Inside, you know you're good. But we want you to know you are loved beyond anything you would imagine. We want you to see, we're showing you the mirror of your magnificence. And that's who you are. And it's time. You've been waiting for this entry point. It's time to be the real you, to be the you came here to be, the choice that you made to be. It's your time. And it won't be your way. We want to tell you good and bad news. news. It's not going to be your way. It's going to be better. It's going to be wildly better. So it's time for you to look at your magnificence. Take that mirror that I'm holding up to you and see yourself, see the beauty and the soul in your eyes, and know that much good is here for you. And it's going to get better. And then it's going to get better. And then it's going to get better. And when you least suspect it, it's going to get better.
Thank you so much. There's a lot of optimism there. There's a lot of positivity. So listeners, take that message to heart. It came from your fairy godmother. Thank you, Wenty, for being a fabulous guest. My name is Jeffrey Eisen. I'm a spiritual life coach, channeler of Shaltazar, and an energy intuitive. Please feel free to check out all the resources on my website, jeffreyeisen.com. Thank you all for listening. Wendy, you've been a great guest. Thank you.
Thank you. And don't forget to have some fun out there.
There you go. Love and light to you all. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.